God's promise under the stars. The story of Abram's covenant. Have you ever made a really important promise to someone you love? Maybe you promised a friend you'd always be there for them, or maybe someone promised you something that meant the whole world. Well, tonight's story is about the biggest promise ever made, and it came straight from God Himself. Long, long ago, in a land far different from anything we know today, there lived a man named Abram. He was a good man, a faithful man, someone who genuinely tried to walk closely with God every single day. But there was something heavy on Abram's heart. You see, he had no children. And in those days, having no children felt like a deep and quiet sadness that never quite went away. Then one night, something remarkable happened. God came to Abram in a vision. Not a dream exactly, but something far more vivid and real. And God spoke to him, gently, warmly, with a voice that carried both power and kindness. "Do not be afraid, Abram," God said. "I am your shield. I will protect you, and I will bless you greatly." Now, Abram was honest with God, and that's one of the things that made him so special. He didn't just nod and smile. He spoke his heart. "Lord," he said quietly, "how can you bless me when I don't even have a child to carry on my name? Everything I have will go to someone outside my family. I have no son." God heard every word. And then He did something beautiful. He led Abram outside, out under the open night sky, where the air was cool and the darkness stretched in every direction. And then God said, "Look up, Abram. Look at the sky. Can you count those stars?" Abram tilted his head back. The sky was absolutely filled with them. Thousands and thousands of tiny lights, more than any person could ever count. "That's how many children will come from you," God said. "Your family will be that large, that grand, that blessed." And Abram believed him. Right then and there, with the stars twinkling above and the night wind blowing softly, Abram chose to trust God completely. He didn't have all the answers. He couldn't see exactly how it would happen, but he believed. And that faith meant everything. Now here is where the story gets really interesting. In the ancient world, when two people made a serious binding agreement, a covenant they called it, they didn't just shake hands. They made a sacrifice. Animals were brought forward, cut in two, and the pieces were laid out in 2 rows, creating a kind of pathway between them. Then both parties would walk through the middle of the pieces together. It was their way of saying, "This promise is so serious, so real, that we're willing to stake everything on it." God asked Abram to do exactly that. "Bring me a 3-year-old cow," God said, "a 3-year-old goat, a 3-year-old male sheep, a dove, and a young pigeon." So Abram gathered the animals. He prepared them carefully and laid them out just as God had instructed, each one placed with reverence and purpose. Then he waited. He waited through the long afternoon as the sun slowly crossed the sky. He waited as birds of prey swooped down, and he chased them away, protecting the offering. He kept vigil, faithful and patient, as the golden light of day began to fade. And then, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the world grew dark all around him, something happened that Abram hadn't expected. A deep, heavy sleep came over him. Not just ordinary tiredness, but the kind of sleep that feels like God is doing something important, something beyond what human eyes could fully take in. And in that deep, sacred darkness, Abram saw something extraordinary. A smoking fire pot, a blazing torch, moving, actually moving, between the pieces of the animals he had prepared. That was God. God Himself passing through the covenant. And here's what makes this so powerful, so unlike anything else. Abram didn't walk through. Only God did. Because this was God's promise, made not just with Abram, but for him. God was saying, in the most serious way possible, this covenant doesn't depend on your perfection. It depends on mine. I will keep this promise no matter what. When Abram awoke, the night was still and quiet. The stars were still there, countless and glittering, just as they had been before. But now they meant something more. Each one was like a small, shining reminder of what God had just promised. Abram's children, and their children, and generations beyond that, stretching all the way through history, all the way down to you and me, sitting here tonight. God made a promise that night that He has kept, and is still keeping. Because God's word doesn't expire, it doesn't fade, it doesn't break. When God says something, He means it with His whole eternal heart. Now, you might be wondering, what about us? What does this ancient story have to do with our lives, here and now? Well, here's the beautiful part. The same God who walked between those animal pieces in the dark, the same God who counted the stars and called Abram outside to look up, that same God knows your name. He knows your heart. He has promises for you, too. And we don't need animal sacrifices anymore. Because many years after Abram became Abraham, the father of a great nation, God sent His own Son, Jesus, as the final and perfect offering. The covenant was completed. The promise was fulfilled. All we have to do is believe, just like Abram did, standing under that star-filled sky. So tonight, as you close your eyes and drift off to sleep, maybe take a moment to look up, or just imagine looking up, at all those stars. Every single one of them is a reminder that God keeps His promises. Every single one whispers the same truth that Abram heard on that ancient night. You are loved, you are seen, and God's promises never, ever run out. Good night, little ones. Remember, just like God made an unbreakable promise to Abram under a sky full of stars, He has made a promise to you, too. His love is real. His word is sure. And no matter how dark the night gets, His light is always there, shining steadily, guiding you home. Trust Him, just like Abram did, and rest easy knowing that you are held in the hands of a God who never breaks a promise.